Hello, everyone, and welcome to Day 3 of Emerge Financial Health. Thank you to all of you who have joined us over the past 2 days. To kick us off, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on what we have seen so far at the conference and set context for our new attendees. We began by discussing the big financial health trends we are seeing in innovation, fintech, and policy. We learned how financial institutions can better partner with the government and fintechs to distribute payments like PPP, stimulus checks, and child tax credit. We then spent time honing in on the individual and how women, and particularly women of color, have been disproportionately and negatively affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. However, in almost every session, there was a common thread, and it was the acknowledgement that there are systemic barriers in our country that have perpetuated inequality for Black and Brown communities. And while these barriers have existed for decades, the pandemic brought a stark reminder that we do not have equal access to healthcare and financial security, and that not that everybody had the option to work or study from home. It took a pandemic to show us that there is more plaguing in our communities than just a deadly virus. It is also cycles of poverty gone too long. It is a lack of basic infrastructure so communities can get the benefits they need on time. It is equating health with the ability to pay. It is the lack of equal pay for women. It is the lack of basic childcare infrastructure. It is a criminal justice system that has been extracting wealth from communities through punitive fees and fines. It is ignoring for far too long the financial health needs of communities that need it the most. But in the middle of all these conversations, we also heard incredibly powerful stories of change and opportunity. And we find ourselves in a financial health movement now. We discussed how fintechs like Propel and Daylight are filling up the gaps in benefits distribution and designing financial products that cater to the LGBTQ+ community. We heard from Her Majesty Queen Maxima of the Netherlands that has been tirelessly advocating for financial inclusion at a global scale. Banks like Citi, who are committing to anti-racist policies. And overall, we heard from visionary leaders who are reimagining the future of financial health. And that left me inspired for today's conversation, because today is all about and highlighting what industry leaders are actually doing to improve financial health through partnerships, commitments, and solutions, both top-down and bottom-up. In today's format, we will be sharing fast-paced spotlights that to drive financial health outcomes. We won't be having any formal Q&A, but feel free to engage with other attendees and leave comments and thoughts in the chat box. Before getting started, I'd like to send a special message of thanks to our sponsors: Foundations Morgan Chase and Prudential Financial, Gold sponsors BlackRock and PayPal, Silver sponsors Bank of America, Fifth Third Bank, MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, and MedLife Foundation. Bronze sponsors Capital One, Members Development, National Credit Union Foundation, and Opportune. Thank you for making these 3 days of content possible. As a quick reminder, we will also be activating a poll at the end of the sessions, so you can easily participate by clicking the link on the chat box. If you scroll this page, you'll find resources related to the topics that we'll be discussing during today's sessions. And if you have any technical difficulties, you can use the chat bubble at the bottom right of your screen. Closed captioning will be available. You can see the link below the streaming window. So as I mentioned today, we're going to be talking about partnerships and commitments. So let's get started with partnerships. As Jennifer Tetcher mentioned on day 1, partnerships are one of the key elements that use for a successful financial health movement. Partnerships between financial institutions, nonprofits, fintechs, and government agencies are fundamental to scale the financial health efforts. These partnerships create opportunities to reach millions of people to help them better save, spend, borrow, and plan. Now, I am thrilled to introduce you to our 3 spotlights for today on innovative financial health partnerships, how they came to fruition, what their goals and objectives are, what they're solving for, and how they're evaluating their success. We're going to be hearing from a partnership developed between Prudential Financial and the Wounded Warriors Project, aiming to help military veterans and military families achieve financial security. We'll also hear from BlackRock's cross-sector partnerships focused on making emergency savings more accessible to low to moderate income households, and from Fifth Third Bank, who partnered with National Urban League to support communities in the U.S. most affected by COVID-19 through upskilling and reskilling services. In just a few moments, we'll hear from these organizations.